Home Office figures show that the backlog of asylum cases has hit a record high of over 175,000. That's up by 44%. So we're asking a simple question: who's to blame? 0207 862 2222 is the number that you need to get your calls in now. Ava, one of the pledges of the Prime Minister's was not only to stop the boats, but to also get the so-called legacy backlog down that relates to claims that have been made before a certain time. But the backlog is growing and growing. Is this a failure of the Home Office?
Yes. I mean, in a simple, I could leave it there. Yes. Also, last week, Rishi Sunak actually rode back on his Stop the Boats pledge, didn't he? He said that he wasn't actually quite sure he could meet the targets that he'd originally pledged. But look, I mean, with the Home Office, to me, it just sort of reads like managed decline, or maybe even like weaponised incompetence. I don't understand how every other country in the world is able to process people who are seeking asylum, apart from us. It feels like a deliberate attempt to essentially create a group of people that the country can now throw stones at and leverage hate at, and then somehow that will, elect them at the next election. None of it makes sense to me.
Nick, what do you make of it? The list has grown and grown and grown.
All the figures have grown. I certainly don't think that the government are intentionally doing this to try and stir hate against migrants. I don't think that's their intention. I do agree that they're completely incompetent. I mean, the system, the people who have been in the system for more than 6 months has grown by about 50%. And there are a lot of people who are to blame, in my view. I mean, the target must be the criminal gangs, mustn't it? The sophisticated criminal gangs. And, they're under the radar. And why are they under the radar? Why isn't the international agencies, the police forces, dealing with them, taking them out, sorting them out? If you do that, you solve a problem massively. You've still got a huge problem here. The government are incompetent. They can't make their mind up which way to go with it.
Do you think that they're deliberately not?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, here's something. Look, 10 years ago...
But I think they're very incompetent.
OK, well, 10 years ago, though, just 10,000 was the backlog. Just 10,000. And actually, a lot of people are saying, well, actually, the backlog is increasing because more people are coming. That's not quite true, because the backlog was already growing in 2018, and that year, only 299 people came across on small boats. So I guess what I'm asking, and I hope this doesn't sound like two sort of tinfoil hats here, but does it suit the government to have a large backlog? We heard Robert Jenrick, a government minister, about 2 weeks ago saying, well, a large backlog will dissuade people from wanting to come over. If they think I'm going to come over and be stuck in a queue of 175,000 people, I'm not going to bother going.
Completely the opposite, because Sunak's hung his reputation, hasn't he? One of his pledges is, I'm going to reduce this backlog. And he will be judged by the claim that he was going to make. So if he doesn't achieve his objectives, he can't expect the electorate to support him. So I think completely the contrary. One of the problems, of course, is that the law assists the migrants. And I think it's about 7 years from start to finish to the end of the appeal process. So if you get onto our land, you're going to be here for 7 years at the moment, which is just a crazy amount of time, and you're going to be supported during that time. So that's a very attractive proposition.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure on that. I think actually going into the next election, I think he'd like to, Sunak would like to say, we are the party that is going to solve immigration. If this goes to Labour and Starmer, they're going to let anyone in, and there's going to be open borders. So I think, he is doing it deliberately.
All right, let's find out. You guys disagree whether it's deliberate or not. Linda in Swansea has called in. Good afternoon, Linda. What do you reckon? Who's to blame for this huge increase?
Right, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'm disgusted with the situation in this country, actually, to be honest. You had a gentleman the other day that on your panel that said we should be in a right where we can actually send them back.
Right.
Right. But it's not happening. We've got, as I've said before on this show, I would have liked to have seen Nigel Farage see this through. Right.
Right.
That's always be what I think. OK. But we're in such a mess. I went out yesterday and our town is inundated. And then we've got people up in Carnethy that are outside with banners and everything else trying to stop these asylum seekers being put into a beautiful hotel they got down there.
Okay.
It's just literally getting out of hand. And
But then, Linda, let me ask you this. in that case, don't you want the Home Office to process more people? That means that there are going to be fewer people in hotels. I can tell you that almost half the people in hotels come from very few countries: Afghanistan, Eritrea, Iraq, and Iran. Now, we know that most of the asylum seekers from those 4 countries, they've got a 98 to 99% of getting their applications accepted. So you're going to let those people in at some point. If you process their applications faster, then perhaps those people can move out of the hotels, reduce the bills, and also go to work, start earning money, pay taxes, contribute to our community. Wouldn't you be for that?
Right. What I think is we've got to, at the moment, I don't think we can take any more people here.
Well,
This is my answer to it all. I mean, I know they keep going on about people working. I always think, what's wrong with getting our own people up and working?
okay.
I get really angry over it.
Nick, you can
At
jump
the
in.
end of the day, this is our country. This is our country.
Okay, Linda, let Nick...
I think at the moment, one of the largest countries people coming in are from Albania, which is regarded as a safe country. I think.
But we've got our deal with Albania now, and most of the people are going back. And I mean, and let's also make...
Are they going back?
But they're being sent back because we've got a deal with Albania. You wanted to speak to Linda as well?
Well, Linda, I just wanted to know what you meant by the term inundated. What do you mean that Swansea is inundated
we've got
with
too many
who?
people here. Have you ever walked round? I mean, I don't know where you live, but I went out yesterday and I was shocked, absolutely shocked. I felt like a stranger in my own country. I'm not being rude when I say that. I'm not a racist. I'm just getting tired of it, actually.
Well, I'm not quite sure how else that can come across, Linda.
This is our country. Sorry?
I'm not sure how that can come across any other way, to be honest. I don't really know what you mean by our country. What exactly do you mean?
Well, the country is overpopulated. We have a country that's overpopulated. There's a limited number of resources, and it's being stretched and stretched and stretched. And we have to, we've got a health service, and people who have contributed all their lives are not being prioritised because there are demands in the same way that there is in education by people who haven't contributed to the system.
Okay, but let's look at the immigration figures from 2022. Most of those people have come from Hong Kong and they've come from Ukraine. There has never been an argument or a debate about whether those people should have come from Ukraine or not. But for some reason, the 40,000 people who have come here from war-torn countries like Afghanistan, that is up for debate, and I don't quite understand that.
No, I agree with you. From war-torn countries, that's absolutely right. But about 44% have come on the small boats. And that we cannot be encouraging that. We need to dissuade people. Apart from the safety aspects, that's not the right way to come onto our shores.
I just don't think
and that's nearly half the number of people coming into this country.
I just sort of think this kind of the rhetoric around deterrent and the action of deterrent is not working. We need to start looking at push factors. We need to start thinking, well, what can we do to war-torn countries to assist in those places? What can we do about climate change that is pushing people to leave their countries? Rather than focusing on let's sort of put a moat up and a big wall, why are people trying to come here in the first place would be a better place to start.
Because it's such an attractive country to come. We give massive... Absolutely. Well, as I say, once you come here, you stay here for 7 years and everything is provided. That's quite an attractive proposition.
That's actually categorically not true. You're given a stipend of about £35 a week and no one is crossing the channel for that tiny little nominal amount of money.
And accommodation and 3 meals a day.
But they don't want to be in the hotel. They want to be working. And I know that because I spend a lot of time working with these people who have crossed the channel.
And the ones who are successful can work.
But they're not allowed to. That's the problem.
Well,
and that's because of the Home Office.
Right. OK, I'm going to move on to our next caller. Linda, thank you. Anthony in Manchester. Good afternoon, Anthony. The backlog has increased by 44%. Nick and Ava disagree whether or not the government are purposefully letting that backlog increase. What do you think?
I think really, I'm a bit... When I actually see all the news and the information I've done over the last couple of years, you cannot. You've got to blame the government, and you've also got to look at the side of France as well. I'm all for of humanity and looking after people, and really, but I can't really understand one. It's education being dropped on both sides of the channel and across the world. What is actually going to receive here? You've already mentioned some people are being returned. They come here, they're on very little money. They're being put into hotels. It's not ideal. There's very little future for them. A picture that they've got in their own heads thinking it's going to be marvellous. It's not. Our own people, just in this country, taxpayers are struggling daily. So they're definitely going to be struggling. But the biggest thing, what really annoys me the most, is the organisation of both sides of the channel. I can see 30-foot dinghies blown up, and I've seen a clip on the on the news where he was all pulled to one side in Dover, and he's collecting them. Obviously, once he was collecting the people. Who are the suppliers of all these dinghies? Surely,
Anthony,
the basic of education can tell you, and a bit of investigation. Who are the suppliers?
Well, Anthony, I mean, we are sending hundreds of millions of pounds now to France to help. They're doing, as far as we know, and as far as they're saying, as much as they can. Although I was listening to an interview of a French official saying that they'd need around 6,000 staff to police the amount of coastline that they have.
About 150 miles of coastline.
Yeah, but again, though, Anthony, if you look at us in regards to the rest of Europe, I think we lie 22nd in the choice of country that people come to. So places like Greece, my home country, Germany, France, Italy, they're taking loads more people than we are. Isn't it just a part of just our responsibility to take some asylum seekers that get to our shores?
I think our first responsibility is to take the asylum seekers who are under threat.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. We've got Hong Kong, we've got
Ukraine,
these other countries. Let's take the immediate people.
Okay, but what about? But Anthony, you make a good point. The people that are under threat. We know that quite a lot of people who are on those boats that we see daily coming across, risking their lives, are from Afghanistan. If you're in Afghanistan, there was a case of an Afghani pilot recently who couldn't. He never got a response from the relocation system in Afghanistan. He's under threat because he helped our armed forces. He's got no way to come here other than to get onto a small boat. So, what do you think we should do with someone like him?
Well, I was definitely saying to you, I'll go back to my first comment where I say about organisation. Yes, it looked very much everybody cut and run and left the people behind who was trying to assist to make a better country for themselves so they can remain in their own country. But what we really got was complete disorganisation.
Yeah.
We've not kept our promise. We've not kept our support. And we should be looking after all the immediate people first. Okay. Anybody just coming here to make a living or live on in a system where they think they're going to be looked after for
economic migrants. Okay.
But yeah.
All right, Anthony, I'm going to leave it there only because I want to squeeze in one more caller. Robert in Belfast. Robert, good afternoon.
Good morning, Alexis. I'd like to say very, very, very clearly here. You're talking about the high asylum backlog.
Yeah.
Who's to blame? The government's to blame. They should be put back in boats and brought back again. Now, truthfully and honestly, somebody saying that seems very ruthless. I'm a taxi driver, right? I can tell you in Belfast, most of the hotels in Belfast are not open to the public.
But Robert, you can't do that. You can't put people back on boats and put them back. You're just not allowed to do that.
Excuse me, Alex. What about the problems with the homeless on our streets? They're local people.
But no one is saying... But Robert, I don't think anyone's saying is either or. They're not saying that you either look after asylum seekers or you look after homeless or people who need government help. The idea is that you should be able to help both.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't know, have you studied the people in all these hotels who isn't open to the public? Which the hotels, first point, get £4,500 a month from the Home Office, which is the taxpayers' money. Look at most of the asylum seekers. They're all healthy males in their 20s and 30s.
Okay.
There's something rather. They're milking the whole, truthfully and honestly, they're milking the whole system.
Okay, Robert, I've got to leave it there only because of time, but you got your views across. Again, we're talking about the backlog, and I think it's something that we're going to carry on talking because it's getting bigger and bigger.
It's getting bigger. But don't we need to make it clear to these countries where they come from that actually it's not a sort of utopian existence here? And I think they come here because they're sold a pup.
I just think
and
it's
very briefly, because I've got to go.
Yeah,
We've got seconds.
I mean, you know, if you want to blame anyone for, if you do subscribe to the "we should send them back" idea, then blame Nigel Farage.
Okay.
Because after Brexit, we're not allowed to send people back.